I wonder how many of us ever thought, as students of World War II or as participants in World War II, that we would ever serve in the Senate and hear the phrase openly used by one party in a conflict, and the phrase being ethnic cleansing. Ethnic cleansing. Isn't that an antiseptic term? And notwithstanding the fact only the Serbs used the phrase, I kept hearing on this floor that they're all the same. They're all the same. There have been atrocities committed by Muslims and by Croats, but they have not set up rape camps. They have not set up death camps. They have not mass murdered as part of a coherent plan of people based upon their ethnicity and their religion. That's called genocide. Genocide. That's what it is. And now, even in our move to state what our vital interest is, this administration and others who support it are afraid to use the word. We're told we're not taking sides. I'm here to take sides. Mladic is a war criminal, the leader of the Bosnian Serbs. He is no better than Himmler. He is no better than Goebbels. He is a war criminal. Karadzic is a war criminal. And I might add, the leader of Serbia, Milosevic, is also a war criminal, although he's the only one not indicted so far. And so I hear people stand here and say, what is our interest? What is our interest? Our interest is that history repeated itself. And let me be presumptuous enough to go on a little more what I think the next history lesson will be. The Soviet Empire has collapsed. The good news. The bad news is all the ethnic hatreds, all the ethnic fighting, all the atrocities that occurred 100 years ago and 40 years ago are now uncovered again. There are 25 million Russians living outside the border of Russia, in Ukraine, in the Balkans, in Kazakhstan. There is war in Armenia, Georgia, and almost all of it is based on ethnicity. And what is the message we send to the world if we stand by and we say, we'll let it continue to happen here in this place, but it is not in our interest. We don't fear that it will spread. I'm not here to tell you if we don't act, it will spread tomorrow and cause a war in Europe or next year, but I'm here to tell you within the decade it will cause a spread of war and a cancer and the collapse of the Western Alliance. And what's so important about the Western Alliance? NATO for NATO's sake, so we can beat our breast? What I'm about to say is going to cause me great difficulty if I'm reelected and come back here as the ranking member or chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. But Europe cannot stay united without the United States. There is no moral center in Europe. When in the last 2 centuries had the French or the British or the Germans or the Belgians or the Italians moved in a way to unify that continent, to stand up to this kind of genocide? When have they done it? And the only reason anything is happening now is because the United States of America finally is understanding her role. The Bosnians know where they want to be. They want to be free. They will fight for themselves. All they have ever asked is lift the embargo. Prime Minister Salagic came after my first visit to Bosnia. I asked in my office, and 12 of my colleagues, all good men and women, came, Democrats and Republicans, because the word was then, you know, if we lift the embargo, it's just going to make it worse for those poor folks. More are going to get killed. And one of my colleagues, very informed in foreign policy, one of my Republican colleagues and Democratic colleagues, sat at my conference table and said the same thing to Salagic. And Salagic said something I will never forget as long as I live. He looked at this senator and he said, "Senator, at least do me the honor and the privilege of choosing how to die. Senator, do not send me food to fatten me and my family in the winter, only to be assured that I will be killed with a full stomach. Give me a weapon. Let me defend myself, and have the good grace to let me choose how to die." He then went on to add, "I'm not asking for you to send a single American troop. I'm not asking for you to send a single American. Just asking you to lift this immoral embargo." Well, that's what should have been done. Because the only time, as a student of history of the Balkans, and I suspect I have read as much as almost anybody in here, at least I've tried my best. I've gone there twice. I've spoken with everyone I could speak to. The last two Balkan wars, the only time they end is when all parties conclude they cannot achieve any more on the ground than they can at the peace table. But events have overtaken us, and the event that has overtaken us is called Dayton. And one of the things that bothers me most, I say to my friends here in the Senate, both men of experience, is the part I don't like about being senator is when presidents don't get it right, we don't get to make the best choice. We get to choose among bad choices. And it's that old thing about the Hobson's choice. Two bad choices, no choice at all. The best choice would be lift the embargo, provide air cover while it's being done, and let the Bosnian government establish itself, because Serbia has already lost. Milosevic has no interest in continuing because he's a pariah in the Western community. Have the War Crimes Tribunal go forward and let it be settled.